Hi, this is my video review for Epoch, the horror role-playing game. I received a review copy sent to me by the game's creator, Dale Elvey. He also sent me a pack of cards. These are the cards you use to play the game. There are different types of cards. Some of them serve to move the plot forward. Others serve for character development and creation, and some others act as substitutes for the dice. Epoch is a pretty original game in my opinion. It's a fresh take on the horror genre in general, but it mainly focuses on a cinematic horror experience more than many other games. I know other games tell you that they're focused in a cinematic experience, but Epoch revolves everything around it. For example, in other role-playing games, the rules sometimes take the main focus of the game, and the narrative or character development, character interactions, they play a second fiddle to it. But here in Epoch, the rules strongly revolve around the idea of telling a good story, of creating interesting characters. In fact, it is vital for your character to be interesting, or he or she will die a quick death. The book itself is pretty sturdy, and it is easy to read. The letters are of the right size. It has some pretty good illustrations too. Some are pretty gory. For example, here you can see a hand that was cut with a sort of cleaver knife. And there are other kinds of illustrations, mainly mimicking or referencing different horror movies. I would have liked that the book had copies of the playing cards, because it only mentions the exact number of cards and what they are used for, but you don't see a page with the cards, so you could scan them and print them later. The digital copy of the book does have the cards in a printer-friendly format. Now, and the cards are of good quality too. I think I will sleeve them later on, because they seem a bit fragile sometimes, but they do the job. Well, the interesting thing about Epoch is that the designer immediately gives you great tips on how to run a horror game. He talks about many problems, how many horror adventures immediately turn into some kind of comedy act or improvised comedy, because nobody gets into the game seriously, or they are too confident in the strength of their characters to overcome the horrors that await them. The game basically divides itself in two phases, which would be the tension phase and the challenge phase. The tension phase requires a significant degree of focus on the part of the players, because horror could not work or cannot function without a sense of belief in that there is a real risk involved, that you don't want your character to die. So the tension phase has all the players talking in first person and describing everything as if they are the characters, and not releasing the tension, not even for 1 second. The moment you can loosen up a little and relax is during the challenge phase. The challenge phase is a phase that represents the climax of the tension phase. During the tension phase, all the players are describing things. The GM is describing the scene, setting the mood. You're in this place, in this city, in this forest, and the characters must describe what they are doing, but they must make a good effort on describing everything as detailed and rich as possible, because for their characters to survive, they have to become interesting characters. So instead of saying I walk around the forest, you have to say something like, the trees remind me of that time when I was a young man, and I went to this camping trip, and a friend died because he drowned in the lake. I will never forget that time. But now I can cope with that loss, and I know that nothing bad will ever happen to me, and things like that, that show the psychology and emotional state of the character. And during the challenge phase is when the big horror, monster, or danger presents itself. An entity, it could be a human, a monster, a ghost, anything that is potentially horrifying. During this challenge phase, the players must play cards. Each player has a number of 4 cards, outcome cards, that they can play for their characters to survive. You have to play a card that injures your character, or in a physical or mental sense. For example, if their characters bump into a homicidal maniac, they have to play a physical injury card, meaning that maniac somehow injured them or crippled them. There are 3 grades of severity for the injuries they could suffer. They could suffer light injuries, moderate injuries, or serious injuries, and that colors how the rest of the game is going to be played out. For example, if you play a lightly injured card, your character may be limping a little bit because when he was escaping from the psychopath, he hurt his foot. But if you play a serious injury, maybe the psychopath stabbed him with a knife, and the character is losing blood quickly. There are also, the 4th card is a special card called the Hero or Zero card. This card is different from the others. If you play it as a hero, you could take damage for another player, and if you play it as a zero, you may save yourself from suffering some kind of injury and making the other players suffer injury instead of you taking it. And what's the advantage of it? Well, the zero card will save you from pain, and sometimes it's the most viable way to survive an encounter because you don't have any other cards left. If you don't have cards left and you suffer and you face a challenge phase, you immediately die. So sometimes it's you have to be sort of a jerk and do something bad to your character. For example, if you're running away from the psychopath with another player, you could play a zero card and say that you trip the person who is running besides you, so that he falls down and the psychopath gets him first, and you escape safely. And but the disadvantage is, of course, that maybe the player would like to get revenge on you later on. The hero card makes you take a wound for some other player, and this may sound like a negative. Why would I even do that? But this gives you an opportunity to add a level of complexity or more interesting things for your character. For example, if you're a gangster and you're I don't know, running besides a doctor from escaping from the psychopath, and the gangster decides to face off against the psychopath, that makes him very interesting. Why is the gangster protecting that doctor? If the gangster is normally a jerk, why would he risk his life to protect the doctor? And then from then on, the gangster could elaborate something like he was saved by a doctor in during a crucial gunfight or something like that, and he feels very grateful towards those who practice medicine. And this is crucial because as I have repeated before, after the challenge phase, everybody, GM and players, must vote on who is the most interesting character, and the one who gets voted as the most interesting character can take back one of his injury cards, meaning he has, in terms of video game speaking, he has one more life to play. So as long as your character is interesting, you can play wound cards like, oh, that psychopath hurt my shoulder, or he punched me in the stomach. And if somebody votes you, all the players vote you as the most interesting character, you can take back that wound and keep on playing it over and over again. And it doesn't have to be physical injuries all the time. For example, if you faced a ghost, or if you saw a very disturbing or gory scene, you could play a psychological injury, something that if it's a light injury, you would be, I don't know, biting your nails all the time. If it's a serious injury, you may be on the verge of a psychotic break, breakout or a psychotic episode, and that would be very bad because your character would eventually become insane. I really don't find any negatives in this game. The scenarios are very well built. The rules are very short. Actually, this part over here on my right hand, this is all the rules you need to know for the game. And this other part, all this here, is it's scenarios, adventures that you can run with your players, and the adventures follow a simple a division of 6 phases that you must complete to survive the game. And in this game, even if all the characters survive, there is still a chance that they will lose the scenario. There are certain conditions that must be fulfilled. For example, if this was Friday the 13th, you would need to secure some type of melee weapon, some kind of or type of vehicle to escape the camp, and everything that you try to do to solve or get out of a certain place alive may accumulate points, and if you accumulate enough points, you will get total victory, and the players will be able to describe a happy ending. But it's very, very hard to get a perfect victory. You usually get a hollow victory or a total defeat, and that results in tragedy for all of those involved. Hollow victory is a small victory, but there's always a huge sacrifice involved. I think this is a great game. It really surprises me. I wasn't expecting it to be this good and streamlined, because this is not designed for campaign play. I think you could certainly play it as a campaign, but this is more of a one-shot game. And the sessions don't take too long. They usually take around 3 to 4 hours. I think the only negative I could say about this game is that it's not for those players that are looking for an investigation challenge. This game is not about. This is not Call of Cthulhu. This is not investigating and solving riddles, puzzles, facing monsters with logic and your mind. This is about living and recreating a movie. The players have to play it with the mentality or the mindset that they will probably all die, and they just want to create a good movie with interesting characters. Oh, I forgot one other thing. If you are not voted the most interesting character, you get a flashback card, and you can play this card during a tension phase, so that you could add greater depth to your character, in hopes that the other players will find your character more interesting. Other players may also play flashback cards with your flashback, so they could have a flashback between them. Some flashback where all the characters involved get a significant screen time to make them more interesting. Well, thank you for watching my review. If you have any comments, please let me know, and see you next time.